Good evening. Hello, my name is Anthony Kucher, and this is my manifesto for Dart 3P96 regarding the future of criticism in Canadian theatre. I think that if we're going to talk about the future of Canadian theatre criticism, we need to talk about the past. We need to examine the past of Canadian theatre. We have to ask ourselves, what was good about theatre in the past? In the 1970s, Trudeau came in, and there was a wave of patriotic feeling. There were Canadian theatre artists who longed for a national theatre, and not just, a Shakespeare festival or a Shaw festival, but true Canadian written, Canadian acted theatre. There was a wave of Canadian artists feeling culturally pressured by the United States, and they went out to stake a claim at a national theatre. These artists attempted to transcend out of our colonial roots by offering us an alternative to Shakespeare or Shaw. So, this is what was good about the past. There was a lot of idealism, but we have to think about, the present as well. So, when we look at the present, what is bad about the present? Because there is a lot of bad things. We have to look at Canadian theatre in Canada, for the most part, is a playground for the wealthy and the introspective. Navel gazers. Either that or it's passive entertainment. And we, in the world of real theatre, snub our noses at anything entertaining. There is this prevailing ideology amongst theatre critics that if it's raw, it's good. If it's edgy, it's good. If it's inedible and it's obscure, it's good. I think that this is a form of cultural elitism. That has kind of developed over time. And this is not just a Canadian phenomenon, but I'll get to that later. Also, a big problem with theatre in Canada is that you can't make a living working in theatre unless you're willing to live below the poverty line. This is a big problem. Ironically enough, the most people who consume theatre are very wealthy, but the people who actually produce theatre are not very wealthy at all. You can't make a living as a theatre artist for a number of years unless you're willing to eat crow for a long time. So you ask yourself, what is the solution? Well, I think I can tell you what's not the solution. And this may offend a lot of people, but academia can't solve the problem. Not even close. The universities, the doctors, the professors, they can't solve the problem. People who write manifestos can't solve the problem. The revolution will not begin in the classroom. It will begin in the hearts and minds of everyday people. You can't start a revolution with 20 people in a classroom all discussing, oh, well, we know what the problem is. But, there's a whole community of people who are out there working, and they have to live with the reality that we live in ourselves. And there's not always a fast and easy solution. We also have to ask ourselves, what do we really know as critics? When we think about the great critics of art, of history, one of the big ones is Socrates. Socrates was a guy who always asked questions of the elites in Athens. He would ask the generals, what is courage? And, they would say, courage is, this. But then once he really started to poke out the answer out of them, he would reveal that they really didn't know what anything about courage was. And I think there's an assumption that everybody thought that Socrates knew the answer, but really he didn't. So if Socrates doesn't know the answer, what is the answer? We also have to think that in our modern society, video games, TV, internet video, film have in large part replaced the role of theatre played in people's lives before their invention. And if we write exclusively about theatre, we are writing for a more gentrified audience than ever before, and in a more exclusive audience. So if you're going to be a theatre critic in the modern era and in the future, you have to think about a couple things. You will have to craft your own career. There will be no more newspapers. You can't count on them. And this is scary. Freedom is scary. People will sink and people will swim. This may create a leaner, meaner critic who just doesn't give a fuck, but it may, destroy a lot of good criticism. But you know what? I think what we will gain in the future will be worth more than what we lose. And to quote a little phrase from the great Frank Zappa, information is not knowledge, knowledge is not wisdom, wisdom is not truth, truth is not beauty, beauty is not love, love is not music, music is the best. I think if you replaced the word music with the word theater, I think I would really agree with that. Thank you for your time.